think it looks like we are just about ready to get started. Looks like our number of attendees is starting to level out here. So, yeah, let's just jump right into it. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. We're going to be talking about the different types of recruiting events that you may receive invitations to throughout the entirety of your recruiting process. More than anything, want to make sure you're maximizing what those opportunities are and spending your money and your time wisely as best as you can. So, really excited to talk about this topic, and we're going to get into some different conversations regarding this as well soon. But I just want to quickly take a moment to introduce myself for those who may have not attended our webinars before in the past. My name is Mike. I'm a senior recruiting analyst at SportsRecruits, which means that a majority of my time is spent on working one-on-one with student athletes and families who are interested in receiving additional support in the recruiting process. Mainly, that's going to be going through how to communicate with schools, what they want to see in video, and then also a big piece of it ends up being event evaluation, making decisions on what events make the most sense, and then also the communication surrounding when you're attending those events, so you can maximize that opportunity as best as possible. So, really important topic, something that I think across really many sports we end up seeing in terms of events really becoming an important piece of the puzzle in terms of gaining exposure and really just putting yourself in a position to succeed and getting that notoriety with different college programs. So, really excited to walk everyone through some of those things here today. For those who haven't attended webinars before, we always like to keep an opportunity to give everyone a chance to ask questions who are attending live. You'll notice that there is a Q&A box that you can take advantage of. I'll do my best to answer as many of those as possible once we get through this presentation here. Hopefully, we do cover a lot of the questions that you have before we get to that point. So, just to give everyone a quick idea of what our agenda is going to be today, we're going to first break down the different types of events that are available to you, what prospect camps, clinics, and everything else that you might see there. Then we'll kind of get into when you receive invites for showcases or prospect camps and how to determine a personal invite versus something that might not be personal. We also want to get into determining how valuable an event might be for you, depending on if it's a single school event or maybe if it's a situation where there might be a large group of college coaches in one place. Then, what can you proactively do on your end to make an event worth it both before, during, and after an event as well? And then lastly, making the most out of your trip before we get into the Q&A portion, like I said before. So definitely some great stuff in here. Hopefully everyone feels a bit better about the event season. I would imagine in some sports that is going to start heating up for people as the end of the fall season kind of comes to a close. If you're a fall high school sport, you might be transitioning into the club season. You might have an opportunity to go to some prospect camps. So let's get into it now. All right, so different types of events. Let's first get into some of those different things that you might receive invitations for, and you can all get a better sense of what exactly they mean and what the setup of those may look like. Now, keep in mind, these terms are a bit interchangeable, so it might not necessarily be the same across the board when you receive these invitations, but we do want to give you an idea of what we typically see more often than not. And prospect day is typically the most likely scenario that you're going to receive an invitation for, or if you go on a school's website, what they'll be promoting in terms of events that they host on their own campus. So prospect day really is that main point. Typically going to be one school. There are prospect days that do invite other college programs to attend as well, but that's going to be when the school that you're interested in is hosting an event on their campus, and it gives you a chance to see the facilities and also work with the coaches directly. I would say a majority of the time spent at prospect camps is going to be more so on the evaluation side, but typically there is going to be some time dedicated to working on some drills and technique and breaking up by position. So there is going to run like a practice, but there usually is going to be some sort of scrimmage or intra-squad match of some sort that everyone would be competing in towards the end of the event itself. Again, keep in mind, generally speaking, one school attends a prospect day, but there is an opportunity where additional programs may be there as well. In terms of a camp or a clinic, that I would say what the main difference with that is that it ends up being more education based than evaluation based. So particularly if you're someone who might be relatively new to a sport and you're just working to hone in on your skills and you're looking to learn from some experts in the field and really established coaches in the sport that you play, that's where I think a clinic can become really beneficial. Yeah, it's going to be more technique based and working on your development and getting actual instruction from potential coaches. So, particularly for those who might be in the earlier years of your recruiting process, the class of 2029, class of 2030, that's where I really find clinics in particular to be really a benefit. If you're someone who's in class of 2027, clinics, you probably are someone who's played your sport for a bit and your focus is more so on the evaluation side. So maybe not something that would be as beneficial, but definitely speak to your club coaches, high school coaches, people you trust to see what would be the best way to get in front of some of the college programs you may have an interest in. Showcases are going to be very heavy on the evaluation piece, and the benefit of those is, I think it's more bang for your buck more often than not. You can see showcases that have 5 schools, 10 schools, 20 schools. Some may even have over 100 schools, all with the idea in mind that everyone is there to try and get evaluated and increase their visibility with the college programs that are there. Now, there certainly is more competition. Usually, there's a larger group of athletes that are invited to a showcase like that. Typically, this is an event that's run by an event organization rather than a school hosting it per se. So there definitely is a bit of a different setup. I would say that it definitely helps in terms of just getting more eyeballs on you. But some people may feel that showcases aren't always going to be the best decision for them, mainly because there's no guarantee that that particular one coach that you might want to see is going to have the time to evaluate you specifically. One other thing about showcases is, generally speaking, that's going to be something that you do sign up for individually. Where a tournament, for example, that may have college coaches in attendance, that's usually going to be something that you go to attending with your club that you're a part of. There still may be a large number of college programs that end up going to that particular event. There really isn't going to be any education at a tournament, where that might be the case at a showcase where they do a Q&A or some sort of presentation, which could be a benefit for sure. For tournaments, it's really more so going to be about being in that team environment and making sure you have college coaches giving them an opportunity to see you in that game scenario. So playing against other high level competition, where a showcase may be more of a setup where you're going to be, getting matched up with different players that you've met, right when you got to that particular event site. So hopefully that gives everyone a better idea of kind of what the difference is between those different events. And then we'll talk about some of the benefits of all the different events that we just referred to here too. So again, we kind of referenced some of this already, but prospect camps, you get that one-on-one direct opportunity to work with the coaching staff. You get a chance to see the campus and the facilities. And this is particularly probably the most beneficial for schools that are, if you have a list of 20, 25 schools, your top 3, your top 5 are probably the schools that you would target to try and attend a prospect camp for. Of course, depending on location and logistics and finances, that might not always be the case, but particularly with prospect camps, that's going to be your best bet in getting that direct exposure with the schools that you have the highest level of interest in. If you're someone who maybe doesn't have as much of a secure idea of, all right, these are my high end, most important schools that I need to be in front of. If you're someone who has more of an idea of, hey, I just want to get as many eyeballs on me as possible, I just want to get my name out there and hopefully find some schools that are going to give me some direct information. I think that's where a showcase could be much more of a benefit, because you're going to have a lot of programs in one place. You're still going to get that game like situation. It just isn't going to be with teammates that you typically work with more often than not. But you're definitely going to get more bang for your buck, like I was saying before. The most important thing with showcases is making sure you do your research beforehand. Research the event organizers, see what the reviews are. If you know someone who's attended any of these events in the past, make sure you ask them their take on what the experience was like. I've worked with families who have attended showcases where maybe it wasn't the most positive experience. So just make sure you go and doing your homework rather than blindly signing up because of what the coach list may say, for example. That should definitely play a part in making that decision. But just make sure you take your time and do a little bit of digging before you register for any event, whether that be a prospect camp or a showcase. And again, on the clinic side of things, more development focus, great for the early recruiting side. You get to learn from the college coaches and maybe even potentially have a chance to build that recruiting relationship a little bit earlier too. It's not going to have much of a recruiting focus, so keep that in mind if you are on the older side of things and it's the only chance to play in front of a coaching staff, but still could be a benefit if you are just looking to build and become a better overall player in whatever sport you compete in. Now, the next thing that we have here is going to be going into a personal versus a non-personal invite. And those are definitely something that we spend a lot of time on in terms of event selection. And whenever you do receive something that tends to be more personal, those are going to be the events that I typically recommend to attend, more so than something that is more of a marketing mass email that's sent out to however many hundreds of athletes potentially. So if you're not sure what a personal email may look like, the things that you're going to want to look for is it may be a little bit more informal. It might be more short and sweet and direct to the point. Maybe they make a reference of seeing you at a previous event. They include their phone number. Maybe they give you a chance. Hey, feel free to give me a call if you want to learn more about it. those are going to be some of the things that probably look a bit different from a lot of the other event invitations that you receive, particularly if they say that you are a high priority player. Again, this isn't necessarily all of the time. There are definitely mass emails that could have some elements of this, but just use your best judgment and just trying to get a better sense of, hey, I've had direct communication with this coaching staff before. They've made it clear that they have a high level of interest in me. He sent me a text to invite me rather than something that just popped up in your email that looks more like a marketing email, which is something we're going to go through next. If you are interested in them, definitely make sure you personally reach out to the coach, let them know that you are registered or you're checking on your schedule to see if that's something that is possible. If you're not interested or you can't attend, I still think from a personal email perspective, it's worth responding. If you can't make it, say, hey, unfortunately, due to a scheduling conflict, I can't make it. Hopefully, I have an opportunity to compete in front of your staff at some point down the road. So that's the best way to make sure that you just keep them in the loop of what you have going on and still express that interest if it is a school that you are interested in moving forward with in any way. On the mass email side of things, again, some pointers that we can give you that gives you an idea of, hey, maybe this isn't something that's personally for me. Definitely do some self scouting of, have I heard from this coach before? When I've sent emails to them, have they been automatic replies, or has there been something that's given me an idea that I'm aware that this coach is aware of kind of my background and what type of student athlete I am? Again, it definitely could have your name attached to it, but there certainly is marketing emails that are sent out that do make things to appear a little bit more personalized. So certainly keep that in mind. But, is it a very generalized message? Is there branding on the email itself that seems like it is something that's kind of been created by someone on the design team there, for example? You know, this is something where if it's really close to the start date of the prospect camp, that might be something that ends up being a little bit more of a clue of, okay, maybe they have a certain amount of spots available and they're just making one last push to try and get as many people to sign up as possible. One thing about prospect camps, it is a revenue generator for the athletic department, right? So it still is a business at the end of the day. It's great to receive the invitations, but just always know an invitation doesn't always mean legitimate interest from the program. Um, if you are interested, definitely let them know. If it's a school, again, it's like in high regard for you, definitely let them know if you can or can't make it. If it's a school that isn't of interest of you, and it definitely appears to be something that isn't a personal message, don't think that you need to respond each and every time that happens. If it's a school that is a priority, certainly make sure that you explain why you can't make it, or if if you need some more time before making a decision, if that's going to be an event you sign up for or not. And what makes an event valuable, right? We talked about a lot of these different types of events that are going there. So we'll kind of break it down from a individual school attendance, or if there's going to be multiple schools, at the site, whether it be a camp or a showcase. Is this a school that is a target for you? Is it on your favorites list on your SportsRecruits profile? Is this a school that makes sense for you academically, socially? Is it at a competitive level that your advocates have told you that makes sense? You know, if it's a high level Division I program, make sure you reach out to a club coach or a high school coach and say, hey, look, this is definitely a place I'm interested in. Do you think this is a place that I could potentially be recruited by? It may not be the answer you're looking for, but you would rather spend that time and that money wisely to get in front of coaches where there is a path forward in getting recruited by them. So look, sometimes the truth of the matter is not everyone's going to play at the Division I level. A very small percentage of athletes do. It's better to look. There's always a chance to just kind of see the facilities and look at it that way, but there's only so many prospect camps or showcases you can attend. So you really want to try and maximize those opportunities as best you can. And also, has there been previous contact? Have you received a notification that a coach has viewed your video, or has a club coach or a high school coach told you that there is some legitimate interest from that particular program? Those are going to be some of the things that end up making it really worth it in those ways. When it's several schools attending, you have to look at it where, yeah, it's great that 80 schools are there, but if I'm interested in one or two, is that going to be worth it for me? If that number is more 5, 6, 7, 8, great opportunity to take advantage of that, because then it's a situation where you don't have to sign up for as many prospect camps potentially if you do get the exposure that you're looking for. Again, has there been previous communication? Does it match my level of play? A lot of these same themes that we see when it's a one school event. But again, doing that research, doing your homework, what is that reputation of that event? Because look, just like anything else, not everything is always going to be how it is, how it seems. There's a lot of event organizations out there that say they're the number one recruiting event in the country, where that may not necessarily be the case, right? So There are some great events. There is some great exposure opportunities out there, but just make sure you take your time, do your homework, ask people who've gone before. That's how you're really going to feel the most secure and get a better sense of what certainly is going to be worth it in terms of getting the exposure that you're looking for. And what can you do to maximize it on your end? And that's what we mean by make it worth it here. Before the event, make sure the coaches are aware of your attendance. I can't wait to see the campus if it's a prospect camp, or I'm looking forward for the opportunity to compete in front of your coaching staff. If there is a schedule at a tournament, for example, make sure you share that information ahead of time so you can hopefully get on that predetermined list of athletes that coach is planning on evaluating. You can see at the bottom here, you never want to go to an event completely unknown. It's really hard to break through and have your play on the field be that first impression. You're much better off and you have a much higher percentage chance of breaking through with a coaching staff if you have gotten on their radar before they see you in person. So before the event, doing that communication is really going to be the way to absolutely maximize that potential of being someone that coach is going to spend some time to evaluate in some way. During the event, perform well, make sure that you're doing all the intangibles right. Don't make a scene in terms of, battling with referees or a bad call. Showcase what those attributes and, what those intangibles are in terms of what a college program is looking for in a student athlete, right? If it is a prospect camp, maybe there's an opportunity where a campus tour is built into it, or there's a Q&A with the student athletes or the coaching staff. Do some homework and try and figure out what are some of those things that you might want to ask if there's an opportunity like that. So make sure that you're kind of getting the most out of it, and also, making sure that you're putting your best foot forward, not just competitively, but also when you are just trying to be an overall team player, because that's what coaches are looking for just as much as the overall level of competition at the same time. And then after the event, similar to before, reach out to the coaching staff, thank them for their time, let them know that you really love the campus and the facilities if it's a prospect camp. If you had any sort of direct communication with a coach during the event, bring them back to that moment. Hey, I really enjoyed this particular drill when I worked with you, because some of these coaches are going to speak to 50, 60, 100 kids sometimes going to events like this. So what can you do to kind of bring them back to that moment that's going to make it easier for them to remember you? Separate yourself somehow, mention something that's going to make it pretty clear of who you are, especially if you have some sort of connection to the school, or someone who's currently on the team, or you're one of your coaches worked with them in a previous job. So whatever it might be, right? Networking is a part of the recruiting process. So anything that you can use as a way of just kind of, breaking down those walls a little bit, that's always something that we'd recommend doing, especially if it's a conversation during the event, if that's possible. All right. And then just to kind of, break this down one step forward, doing that communication before, never show up completely unknown, stay focused, perform at your best, explore campus when possible, and then thank coaches for their time, reassess your position with your school. And again, really just make sure you take that time to, if there is an opportunity where a coach can provide you with feedback, for example, like going to a prospect camp, you can always ask that question as well. And here's how you can do it. For those of you who do have SportsRecruits Pro accounts, you do have access to our built-in messaging system. All you need to do is log into the Messages tab on your SportsRecruits account, type in the name of the school that you're interested in, and we'll provide you with a drop-down list of any coaches that are listed on that coaching staff's staff directory on their website. And then you can reach out and say, hey, look, I'm attending your prospect camp this upcoming Saturday. I'm really excited for the opportunity to compete in front of your staff. If you'd like to evaluate me before this event, you can view my videos on my recruiting profile, which you can access via the link below, because we will automatically include that link to your SportsRecruits account whenever that does happen. For those of you who may not have used the SportsRecruits Pro features in the past, think of it as LinkedIn for student athletes, right? You can communicate with coaches directly, but also you can track the activity happening on your site as well. When I say track your activity, what I mean by this is if a coach does take the time to view your profile, watch your video, look at a transcript that you upload. That's why it's really important when you are doing communication, making sure you have a completely built out profile so they can do that evaluation before they have the chance to see you in person. Again, we want to make sure that you're maximizing that opportunity to really be seen and increase that visibility, and make sure coaches have a general idea of kind of who you are and what you're all about. Think of it as sending your resume over to a coaching staff, but before they have a chance to see you live. If a camp is an interview, you would want to send your resume before going to the job offer, right? So just another way just to kind of keep in mind, and that's just the best way to set yourself up for success for any recruiting event you might go to. And lastly, making the most out of your trip, right? Then making sure that you can get the most out of your expenses. Maybe there's a campus tour that you can sign up for if it isn't included in the prospect camp that you're going to. If you're going to a recruiting showcase, see if there are nearby campuses and maybe you can go check out the facilities there. If you sign up for your own campus visit, because you're in the nearby area, reach out to the coach and let them know you are going to be on campus. If there is an open house, that's a great chance to actually get a chance for what a program may offer. So, it's really more so it's not just about going to the event. Sometimes it could be seeing the neighboring area. If you're going to one prospect camp, there might be another school you're interested in 20 minutes down the road, 30 minutes down the road. If you have the time and you're able to make it work, try and go check out that school for yourself as well. So, really just try and maximize those chances so you don't have to go back to a nearby area multiple times if you have a chance to do it all in one shot. Okay, so that was a lot of information. Hopefully, that gave everyone a better idea of the types of recruiting events that are out there. How to maximize before, after, and during events. And more than anything, just make sure that you are going to these events and these coaches have some general background of who you are and what you're all about. So we'll take a couple of minutes here to go through some questions. It looks like a couple have come in. So let me just take a moment here, and if anyone else has questions, feel free to keep writing those in here. So thank you, everybody. Okay. So, first question that I see that popped up here is, are prospect camps always invite only? Not always. There definitely are times where, let's say, for example, you're on that recruiting list, you filled out a recruiting questionnaire, you may receive that invitation, most likely via email, but more often than not, for schools that you are really interested in, there is going to be an opportunity to go on the athletics website. And if you go into like the more tab or the recruiting tab, every program has it set up a little bit differently. You should be able to find a camps tab. If they are hosting prospect camps, they usually have a website dedicated to that. So you can see if they have anything coming up or if it's going to be TBD. You can see the setup or if any forms are required to fill out beforehand. So you can always just do a quick Google search, ABC University prospect camps, and you put in the name of the sport that you play with as well. So I think that's always going to be a way where you can at least see what's out there. Again, you want to make sure that you try and establish communication before, but you don't have to wait for the invite every time you sign up for a camp. Okay. All right. If your child plays for a club team that's not on one of the top teams, do college coaches still come to watch their games? That's really going to be very event specific and sports specific. I would say for certain tournaments that you sign up for, there are a lot of tournaments or events that you may register for where they may even have a college coach list available for you to review before you go to the event. If that isn't the case, then you would want to try and reach out to some neighboring schools or nearby programs in the area that you're going to be and just say, hey, look, I'm not sure if you are attending, but if you are, I wanted to provide you with my schedule. I wanted to alert you about my attendance. So that's a way, even if you don't have that exact confirmation that a coach is going to be there, that's a really good way to potentially just give coaches a heads up that you're going to be nearby. And if they have a chance to see you, they will. Oh man, what are the best resources to check on the reputation of camps, clinics, and especially showcases? Man, I would say I've seen the most, direct feedback probably on Reddit more often than not. Again, take everything with a grain of salt, right? It's not ever, there's going to be people who have bad experiences at great events and vice versa. But I think if you see a repetitive piece of, hey, this event, they over register athletes and it wasn't a great experience, or they marketed that there was going to be X amount of coaches and it was significantly less than that. Those are the types of things that I would look at to potentially see if it's there. Also, just word of mouth too, right? Do you have people in your area? Do you have club coaches, high school coaches, trainers, people within your sports space that you can reach out and maybe you can even ask them, hey, what events would you recommend that I attend? So checking on the reputation yourself is a good start, but also lean on people who may have knowledge of your particular area and your particular sport as well. At what age can student athletes email coaches? Any age. So I would probably recommend, at least freshman year of high school would be kind of the earliest that I would probably get started. But there's no rules or regulations stopping student athletes from doing that communication. There may be some limitations on how a college coach can respond to you, especially early on, particularly if it's a Division I program. Depending on your sport, you may see June 15th prior to your junior year or September 1st of your junior year. So those are going to be the things where coaches are going to be limited in what they can say, but there's nothing stopping a student athlete from reaching out and contacting those college coaches directly at this point. So even if you're a freshman in high school, feel free to do that contact before events. Okay. Is it appropriate and or beneficial to link your Sports Recruits account or your Instagram page in emails to coaches? If you have an active Sports Recruits account, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, you do have the option, the link to your Sports Recruits account will automatically be provided. And you actually have the ability to add your Instagram handle and tag that in there as well. I would say if it's where you store your footage, that's probably a good reason to have the Instagram page. But if you have a video library or if you have direct links to your video, that would be better than sending them to a social media page, in my opinion. All right, a lot of questions popping in here. This is awesome. Let's take a look. Um, when you upload a video to Sports Recruits, does it automatically notify the school on your favorites list? It does not. And the reason why, we have a lot of programs that have a lot of student athletes that favorite them. Think of, Michigan or Notre Dame or Duke University. If they receive the notification every time a student athlete uploaded the video that's favorited their program, the notifications would never end. So your best bet is when you upload new video is to directly communicate with that coaching staff, letting them know that that information is there. Being proactive, that is going to probably the most typical and most important reason to reach out to a coaching staff proactively. So hopefully that helps. Okay, seeing a couple of repetitive ones here. I'm going to do my best with the time we have left to answer as many as possible. So again, thanks everyone for all the feedback here. Um, how important are still photos on my child's profile? Are there usually professional photographers on site we can hire in advance? Look, photos is something that comes up in conversations with some of the families I work with. I have yet to meet a college coach that has recruited someone based on a really cool picture. I think video is a whole different conversation because I think that's going to give the coach a chance to evaluate someone directly. But when it comes to pictures, I'm just not sure how much is that information going to benefit a coaching staff in learning more about that student athlete as a player. Again, it could be great for social media, or if you need a good profile picture, something along those lines, that's great. But from a college coach perspective, that probably isn't going to be something that's going to make a huge difference in how they evaluate a student athlete. Okay. All right. Is it better to attend a college ID camp or push the coach to watch your showcase appearance? Very, very specific question, right? If it's a school that is, really difficult to get in front of, and I think the anticipation is the coach isn't always going to go out of their way to try and see you at a showcase. If it's a top priority school, the prospect camp is probably going to be the best bet because at least you're in a position where you're not going to have as much competition. Where a showcase, again, there's going to be a larger group of student athletes there. There's going to be a larger group of college coaches there. So if there's one school in particular that you're looking to get in front of, the prospect camp is probably going to be the highest percentage chance of getting that evaluation you're looking for. Can Division III college coaches respond to emails from the class of 2029 about attending a tournament or showcase? Yes, they can. They're not required to reply to email, so keep that in mind when I say that Division I coaches are limited. They can't say anything outside of, hey, thanks for your interest. Due to NCAA rules, we can't contact you further. Here's a link to our prospect camp. And if you did have registration questions, they might be able to help you out with that. A D3 school, they don't have that same red tape, right? So you can definitely make sure to respond to them and say, hey, coach, really excited. I didn't see any prospect camps on your website. If there is anything coming up, I'd love to hear about it. I'm happy to fill out a questionnaire if that's the easiest way to find out. It could be an example of an email you can send to a D3 program. Right. A lot of questions coming in here, guys. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, some sport specific questions in here that I don't want to go too in depth on because we do have a pretty wide array of programs that we invited to this event. So apologies on that here, guys, but I'll do my best to try and answer them as generally as possible. Um, so this person said it's a limited sample size, but speaking with a couple of coaches at a showcase event, the coaches seem to be interested in contact via social media such as X, Instagram, rather than email. That very well may be the case, right? That definitely could be a benefit. Keep in mind the same rules would apply for those college coaches in terms of how they can respond. We have always found that email is the most professional way to do your proactive outreach, but at the end of the day, follow the lead of the college coaches, right? If a college coach were to send you a DM or send you a text, we wouldn't recommend sending an email back. If, however, they're communicating with you, that's going to be your best bet once that recruiting connection is established. I think for the first time that you're reaching out to a coaching staff, email is going to be your best bet still, even with all these different ways of communicating with schools. Again, you may be receiving feedback elsewhere. That's totally fair. But whenever I'm working with student athletes and families directly, I'm always going to recommend email first and see if that can lead to other variables later on. All right. I think we have time for two or three more here. So again, thanks everyone for hopping in. There's some really awesome questions that we have in here for sure. Just going to see if there's anything that I may have missed from earlier. In the past, my student athlete has sent messages from their email. Is it better to send the coach a message or an email from SportsRecruits via the SportsRecruits messaging system? I think there are some benefits of the SportsRecruits messaging system. One, we have the college coach's information already built into our network. So you won't have to go through the trouble of looking up the coach's contact info. So efficiency is certainly a benefit of the SportsRecruits messaging system, and also being able to track that activity. For example, if you upload a video to YouTube and you send the link to your YouTube highlight reel to a college coach, if they don't respond, you don't get any verification that they viewed that video. If you upload a video to SportsRecruits and you say, hey, you can watch my highlight reel on my recruiting profile, and just click on the link below, you will then receive those notifications letting you know that you have triggered some sort of interest. So I think that's some of the benefits that you would see with a SportsRecruits message compared to sending from a personal address. All right. I think we have time for one more here, guys. Let's see. All right. So it looks like we have a couple that are pretty similar. So when do we ask for a call for a coach, or what's a good approach to determine if a D1 coach is interested at all? It just seems like we may not necessarily be getting the feedback we were hoping for. Now, I think I look at requesting a call, or kind of like putting the feet to fire is kind of the way we put it, of that's kind of like your last chance, right? So if you've reached out to a school 3, 4, 5, 6 times, you haven't gotten a response, you've sent video, you've reached out before events, and it's just not quite hitting the way that you would want, particularly if you're in your junior year, if you're in your senior year, and you just want to get a sense of kind of like where you stand with these programs, that would be the time where I would say, hey, look, hopefully I've established that I have a high level of interest in your program. I just want to see if there is a path forward for me for your 2027 recruiting class, or as a goalkeeper in the 2026 class, whatever it might be, right? So I think that would be the time you can say, if you have the time and if you are interested in me, I'd love to speak to you on the phone to learn more about next steps. But I would not recommend doing something like that until you feel like you've tried kind of everything else leading up to that. So asking for phone calls, or kind of like when to call it, I would, particularly for that second question, send that one final email saying, hey, hopefully I've made it clear I'm a big fan of your school. I'd love the opportunity to be considered. If you can let me know if that is an option, I'd love to hear about it. And look, sometimes no isn't what we want to hear, but that could be sometimes what frees you up to focus on other programs that do have a high level of interest at the same time too. So definitely keep that in mind. All right. I think that is all the time that we have here, everyone. Hopefully this was helpful, and gave everyone a better sense of, looking at different recruiting events, getting a better feel of just how to go about the process overall. So if you registered for this event, you will automatically receive a recording of it. So be on the lookout for that, most likely sometime tomorrow. And other than that, just be on the lookout. Check out our landing page. We always send emails about upcoming webinars that we do. So thanks everyone, as always, for joining. We hope to see you again sometime soon. And best of luck as you get ready for an upcoming event season. Thanks everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your day.